Novorossiysk port erupts in flames. August 4th, 2023, 4:37 a.m. local time. Russian civilians wake to explosions echoing across the harbor. Ukraine's maritime drones have arrived. The war comes home to Russia's largest Black Sea port. This is asymmetric naval warfare reaching 400 kilometers behind enemy lines. Welcome to Black Sea Doctrine, where unmanned surface vessels rewrite the rules of maritime combat. The target, Olenegorsky Gornyak, Russian Rapucha-class landing ship docked for repairs. The weapon, Ukrainian naval drone, semi-autonomous, packed with 450 kilograms of explosives. Detection systems fail. The drone approaches at 40 knots, weaving through commercial traffic. Harbor security never sees it coming. Impact on starboard hull below the waterline. Massive explosion tears through the ship's engineering spaces. Crew scrambles to damage control. Too late. The landing ship lists heavily. Emergency alarms sound across the naval district. Russian sailors evacuate as the vessel begins taking on water. Within 90 minutes, Olenegorsky Gornyak settles on the harbor bottom, bow resting on the seafloor, stern partially submerged. Total loss. This is not the first Ukrainian strike on Novorossiysk, but it is the most successful. Previous attempts in May and June 2023 were intercepted or missed their targets. Russia claimed invulnerability. Russian state media broadcasted confidence. Novorossiysk is 400 kilometers from Ukrainian-controlled coastline. How can Ukraine possibly threaten it? The answer: innovation and desperation. Ukraine cannot match Russia's conventional navy. No major surface combatants, no submarines, limited missile inventory. So Ukrainian engineers build something different: semi-autonomous unmanned surface vessels, essentially seaborne kamikaze drones, guided by artificial intelligence and satellite navigation, capable of operating independently for hundreds of kilometers, nearly invisible to radar, and devastatingly effective. One drone costs approximately $250,000 to manufacture. The landing ship it destroyed, $65 million. Return on investment, catastrophic for Russia. Black Sea Doctrine has tracked the evolution of this technology since the first confirmed Ukrainian naval drone strike on Sevastopol in October 2022. The tactics improve with each operation. Early drones were crude, slow, easily detected. By August 2023, they are sophisticated weapon systems. Novorossiysk is Russia's critical economic asset. This is not just a military port. This is the largest commercial harbor on Russia's Black Sea coast. Oil export terminal handling 1.5 million barrels per day. Grain shipments to global markets. Container traffic connecting Russia to Mediterranean trade routes. Annual economic throughput, $35 billion. The port is supposed to be secure, protected by coastal defense systems, naval patrols, and modern radar networks. Ukraine's drone penetrated all of it. The psychological impact exceeds the physical damage. Russian civilians living in Novorossiysk thought themselves safe from the war. Ukraine was the battlefield, not Russia. Now explosions wake them at dawn, flames light the harbor skyline. War is no longer theoretical. It is happening in their city. Panic spreads. Residents flood social media with videos of the burning ship. Russian authorities struggle to control the narrative. State television claims minor damage. Independent footage shows otherwise. The landing ship is clearly destroyed. Credibility collapses with the ship. One port, Russia's southern gateway. Would you feel safe living there now? Commercial shipping companies react immediately. Insurance rates for Novorossiysk port increased by 300% within 48 hours. Several major oil tankers divert to alternative ports. Loading schedules disrupted. Russia's oil export revenue takes immediate hit. Estimated daily loss, $50 million. The economic warfare works both directions now. For months, Russia struck Ukrainian ports with cruise missiles, destroying grain terminals and disrupting exports. Ukraine could not respond symmetrically. No cruise missiles capable of reaching Russian ports, no bombers to deliver strikes. But maritime drones provide asymmetric solution. Ukraine can now threaten any Russian port facility in the Black Sea. The strategic calculus shifts overnight. Russian military analysts are forced to reassess. Black Sea Fleet dispositions change. Warships relocate from Novorossiysk to Sevastopol. Submarines shift patrol areas. Harbor defenses receive urgent reinforcement. Anti-drone nets deployed across port entrances. Additional radar systems installed. Patrol boats increase frequency. All of this costs money, resources, and operational flexibility. Ukraine achieves strategic effect with relatively minimal investment. This is modern naval warfare. Expensive warships vulnerable to cheap autonomous systems. The same principle that Houthi rebels demonstrated against Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea. The same tactics Yemeni forces used against coalition vessels. Now proven effective in peer-level conflict. Who controls the Black Sea? A. Russia. B. Ukraine and NATO. C. Turkey holds the key. The August 4th strike is not an isolated incident. Ukraine follows up with additional attacks. On August 22, 2023, another drone targets Novorossiysk oil terminals. This time, Russian defenses respond. Patrol boats intercept the drone 3 kilometers from the port. Machine gun fire disables it before detonation. The drone sinks, but the message is delivered. Ukraine can reach you whenever we choose. September 2023 brings escalation. Ukrainian forces launch coordinated attacks on multiple Russian Black Sea targets simultaneously. Sevastopol, Feodosia, and Novorossiysk all face drone strikes in a 24-hour period. Russian defenses are overwhelmed. You cannot patrol everywhere at once. Resources are finite. Some drones get through. On September 13th, Novorossiysk's fuel storage facility is hit. Not the port this time, but the petroleum tank farm 2 kilometers inland. The drone navigates up the harbor channel, beaches itself near the fuel depot, and detonates. Massive fireball visible for 15 kilometers. Secondary explosions as fuel tanks ignite. Fire crews battle the blaze for 11 hours. Environmental disaster compounds military embarrassment. Thousands of liters of crude oil spill into the harbor. Marine ecosystem contaminated. Fishing industries affected. Tourist beaches closed. The economic and environmental cost escalates beyond initial military damage. Local residents protest outside government offices. Why can Ukraine strike us with impunity? Where are our defenses? Russian authorities promise enhanced security, more patrols, better technology, improved response protocols. But the fundamental problem remains. You cannot stop every small, fast-moving surface target in a harbor full of civilian vessels. Novorossiysk handles hundreds of ships weekly. Commercial tankers, cargo vessels, fishing boats, recreational craft. Distinguish hostile drone from legitimate traffic in time to respond. Nearly impossible without stopping all maritime commerce. And stopping commerce defeats the purpose of having a port. But what happened during the October 31st attack changed everything. Ukrainian forces demonstrated multi-domain strike capability, not just drones, but coordinated operations. On Halloween night 2023, Novorossiysk faces simultaneous attacks. Maritime drones approach from sea, aerial drones strike from land. Russian air defense systems engage multiple targets. S-400 batteries fire on incoming aerial threats. Coastal defense guns target surface drones. Chaos across the entire port complex. One aerial drone penetrates air defenses and strikes a dry dock facility. Moderate damage to infrastructure. 2 maritime drones are destroyed by patrol boats. One reaches its target, a Russian Navy corvette under repair. Explosion damages the hull and sets fire to dockyard equipment. The corvette survives but requires months of additional repair. The tactical complexity of the operation stuns Russian military observers. Ukraine orchestrated multi-vector attack, coordinating different unmanned systems, saturating defenses, achieving effects despite interception. This is not amateur guerrilla warfare. This is sophisticated military operations reflecting professional planning and technical capability. Is this pushing NATO closer to direct involvement? comment Y or N. Western intelligence indicates Ukrainian naval drone program receives indirect support from NATO countries. No direct weapons transfers, but technical knowledge sharing, satellite intelligence for navigation, and maritime surveillance data. Plausible deniability maintained. Ukraine designs and builds the drones, but the enabling infrastructure includes Western technology. Russia knows this. Protests diplomatically, threatens escalation, but cannot effectively respond. Attacking NATO directly risks full alliance confrontation. Attacking Ukraine harder than already happening achieves diminishing returns. The strategic trap closes. By November 2023, Novorossiysk operates under permanent military alert. Commercial operations continue, but at reduced capacity. Port revenues decline by 40%. Oil exports shift to Baltic ports, adding transportation costs. Grain shipments reroute through Azov Sea facilities, increasing transit time. The economic impact compounds monthly. Russian government subsidizes port operations to maintain viability. Taxpayer money covers security costs that should be commercial expenses. Hidden war cost buried in federal budget. Black Sea Doctrine tracks these economic effects. Wars are not won solely through military victories. Economic sustainability matters. If Ukraine can impose sufficient cost on Russian Black Sea operations, strategic advantage shifts despite Russia's larger conventional forces. The question becomes who bleeds faster economically. The Novorossiysk attacks demonstrate Ukrainian capability to impose those costs. Every successful strike forces Russian resource reallocation. Money spent on port defense cannot be spent on offensive operations. Equipment protecting harbors is equipment not available for frontline combat. Personnel assigned to patrol duty are personnel not deploying to Ukraine. Asymmetric warfare creates strategic dilemmas where conventional military superiority provides limited advantage. December 2023 and January 2024 see reduced Ukrainian drone activity against Novorossiysk. Not because capability diminishes, but because targets shift. Ukrainian forces focus on Sevastopol and Crimean naval infrastructure, higher value targets, more direct military impact. But the threat to Novorossiysk never disappears. Russian defenses must remain in place indefinitely. The economic cost of vigilance accumulates, port efficiency suffers, insurance rates stay elevated, commercial traffic remains suppressed. By February 2024, Novorossiysk port throughput is 60% of pre-war levels. Russia loses billions in revenue. Regional economy suffers, employment declines. The second-order effects spread far from the actual explosions. What breaks next? The grain deal, Turkish neutrality, or Russian deterrence? For Novorossiysk, the answer is already clear. Russian deterrence is broken. The narrative of Russian invulnerability is shattered. Ukraine demonstrated capability to strike Russian territory with persistent effect. Civilians in Russian port cities now live with war anxiety previously reserved for Ukrainians. The psychological warfare succeeds. The strategic implications extend beyond Russia. Every nation operating naval facilities watches these attacks. Traditional port security is inadequate against modern autonomous threats. Harbor defenses designed for conventional threats, mines, submarines, and manned surface vessels. Not against dozens of small, fast, semi-autonomous drones. Naval doctrine must adapt. Investment in counter-drone technology accelerates globally. Electronic warfare systems, directed energy weapons, and autonomous interception platforms. The naval arms race enters a new phase. Ukraine versus Russia becomes proving ground for technologies that will define maritime security for decades. The question for Russia is whether Novorossiysk remains viable as major port facility. If Ukraine maintains strike capability indefinitely, can Russia accept ongoing risk and economic cost? Does the port get militarized completely, evicting commercial traffic? Does it get abandoned in favor of Baltic and Arctic alternatives despite geographic disadvantages? No good options exist. This is the strategic success of Ukrainian naval drone warfare. Create dilemmas where every Russian choice carries significant cost. Novorossiysk burns not just from explosions but from impossible decisions. Trade routes, missiles, and war. Black Sea Doctrine. Will Russia relocate Black Sea Fleet from vulnerable ports? Can Ukraine sustain drone production and operations long-term? Will this force negotiated restrictions on autonomous weapons? The Novorossiysk attacks opened questions that extend far beyond the immediate tactical results. The future of naval warfare is being written in the burning waters of the Black Sea. And Ukraine, the nation without a traditional navy, is writing the doctrine. Subscribe to Black Sea Doctrine, where Black Sea power decides everything.